No, you weren't in the video. I started it after. Hi, Brian.
Hey,
Hi.
sorry.
Okay, there I am.
Hey, how are you? It's good to see you.
Okay, how are you?
Doing all right.
I
Sorry,
hope
I'm just,
everyone. Oh, sorry.
yeah, I guess that works. I've never done this before. So,
Yeah, it's a little strange, but
yeah,
once we get talking, it moves pretty swiftly.
okay. All right.
So thank you for joining me today,
Yeah, my
and
pleasure.
thank you guys all for tuning in. I'm excited to have Brian Mashburn here with me today, and let me flip over. So now you can see some works we have here at the house to share with you guys. The bottom four here are his contributions to the Four Seasons show, which is an exhibition currently online that is on through this weekend. And then we have one of the only pieces left from his solo show last year. So we're going to go through his work today, focusing on these pieces. But as a reminder, we do have a couple more. There are larger pieces and they're on our website. So you guys are more than welcome to ask me about those after the conversation today, or just check them out. So Brian's work is based in oil, and these are, I believe, on canvas. Are they board? They're board. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
They're oil on panel. And so, with the Four Seasons, particularly, he concentrated on a series that focused on birds that appear during specific times, and they're based off of your location in North Carolina too.
yeah, that's right. In
Yeah.
Asheville. Yeah.
So I'd love to learn more about the birds that are a part of this, as well as the tones you chose to depict each season.
Okay. Um, yeah, where should we start? Maybe at on the left or the hummingbirds there.
Yeah, for
So
summer.
yeah, yeah. So that's summer. I mean, I guess basically, one of the markers of seasons changing are the birds that we notice. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time figuring out which way to look here.
No, let's talk about the birds
but
in summer, and then we'll talk about the palette, and then we'll follow suit with the rest.
okay, but so for summer in particular, uh, we notice hummingbirds come around. So I don't know, it just seems suitable as a way to you know, mark or illustrate a season by having those birds. I think the first Four Seasons show a couple of years ago, I
Mhm.
did the hunting seasons in North Carolina. So it was like whatever animals you could legally shoot here. So that was a little darker, but yeah. So
And so you chose a very warm palette also to depict summer with
right.
oranges, and they contrast quite beautifully to the subtle blues that
Mm,
escape into the background with that sense of atmosphere.
yeah, yeah. And I tried to not overthink the colors too much. I tend to do that, but with these, it's just kind of more went by feel. Um,
And so then the colors are based off of an emotional choice.
yeah, well, or thinking about the season. I mean, I guess in a way, like color and yeah, color's always kind of an emotional choice, but just trying to depict summer in a way, but not make it too literal, I guess. If that
No,
makes
it
sense.
makes great sense. I mean,
Yeah.
it's mood that you're depicting through color,
Right.
and your work in general does that too. So the color just kind of enhances that mood into a certain direction.
Right. Right. Yeah. And but like hummingbirds. Actually, we just got our first hummingbirds to our feeders here at the house.
Oh, you
Maybe
did?
in the last week or so. But yeah, as of the last couple of days, they're here a lot. So really, we'll have them through the fall, but they're most conspicuous, I guess, during the summer. And kind of same with some of the other birds in the series. They're not just here for the one season. It's just for whatever reason they're either most conspicuous during a certain season or I don't know. Yeah, we just have an affinity for them. for whatever reason. But
Absolutely. And I mean, you're in a much warmer climate than I am.
right.
I won't see hummingbirds on my property for at least another couple of weeks, but
Yeah. Well,
it's
it's
always,
early for us
yeah.
for sure
Oh,
this
it
year.
is.
Hmm.
Okay. So that was kind of just a special treat.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know. We had a really excuse me, sorry, a really warm winter. So I don't know. It's nice to have them here, but it may not bode well for how this summer is going to be. So
It's true too.
yeah.
I guess we will see.
Yeah.
And so your work is also classified with a lot of industrial landscapes
Hmm.
juxtaposed with those of the natural world. And so you
Right.
may put in elements that are always recognizable, but do they hold any symbolism for you in particular to the piece, such as summer, or was it more of a visual decision?
Well, uh, I mean, I guess both. Like the roller coaster is pretty on the nose for, like summertime amusement park sort of thing. But these were more visual and I don't know. And I guess at this point too, like I've been painting these sort of landscapes for so long that like, you can only paint so many roller coasters and
Yeah.
still expect them to have much kind of literal or specific meaning. But so at this point it's kind of, just a visual thing. And I don't know, either trying to make some sort of movement or just a textural thing, like, some of those kind of hard lines, 90-degree angles next to, foliage and, branch shapes that are, I don't know.
Well, I
Yeah,
think they echo each other in many senses. Like your
sure.
decision to put that roller coaster in there, it echoes that the curvature of that branch
Yep.
in many senses. And I think
Yeah.
aesthetically, it's a really beautiful balance of the two
Thank you.
worlds and yeah, how they work.
Yeah, I've had I
Here
don't
too.
know, I've really used a lot of these, one branch across the picture plane thing in the last few months. I might be wearing it out a little bit, but I don't know.
I don't think so. I think you
Okay.
combine it with so many different elements and patterns and colors that there's always something very innovative and exciting about what it is you do. And
Right.
it's just it's a beautiful way also to kind of have a close up on birds that you paint so beautifully. I
Uh,
mean,
Thanks.
hopefully you're welcome. People on Instagram can see now like all the detail and the feathers and with your animals, a lot of times you do paint from life as much as you can through taxidermy, for instance.
Right. Right.
And so
Well, and all the like all of my references is my reference one way or another. So, with all these birds, these are birds that like actually the kestrels were there's a rescue in Charlotte, which is a couple hours down the road from us here, but they do it's the just Carolina Raptor Center, so they'll have photographers come in and bring out some of their birds. So the kestrel reference was from there, but the other birds are from the feeders at the house. And my wife and I have kind of for years now cultivated our birds here, and you know just trying to get as many birds as we can to come and have them set up at a couple windows. And I don't know, I spend probably too much time sitting looking out the window with the camera.
no.
but it is how I get the reference for like all the birds in the paintings, or all the songbirds anyway, or at one point we're outside the studio window, so
I
it's
think it
convenient.
better equips you to paint nature because you're understanding now the anatomy a bit more and their sense
Hmm.
of movement and how they appear when they're still. I mean, these are all things that, you know,
Right.
take that time, I think, observing. And it's healthy to observe all these things anyway, too. So
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think we can ever spend too much time doing it.
No, especially these days. I mean,
Yeah.
what else are you gonna do, I guess? But
But it's a reprieve. I think that
mm,
it grounds you a bit more and it relaxes you and it gives you a different perspective to approach your day with. So
sure, sure. Well, and I mean, bird watching in general is kind of a I don't know. I mean, there's a lot to recommend it, I guess, but um, it's one of those things where it's so fleeting or whatever. You spend all this time and effort, energy, and money to see these birds, and they can just like that, they're gone. Or you might think you see something, and um, you get excited and then you get kind of heartbroken if you miss it or whatever, or if
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to photograph it and you miss it. But um, so I don't know. It's kind of like it's just a good reminder that you can chase something, but at some point, it might be out of your control, or you got to let it go. Um,
But it's quite the metaphor
but
for life too, which
yeah,
I think is another reminder of how
yeah,
things are. And,
yeah.
you know,
It's like
it's,
obsession and
yeah,
the sort of Ahab Ishmael sort of thing.
yeah,
But yeah,
absolutely. And, but that moment when you do find that you can at least just witness them doing what they do for that very quick moment
right.
is very special. And I
Yeah,
think that it kind of just removes everything else from your mental plate. And for
yeah.
that one moment, you're just completely fixated on how this beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
bit of nature has just stopped in front of you. And
Sure. Well, and especially when like, speaking of seasons, when you see the first whatever of the season, it's exciting. And
yeah.
I don't know. And like it's probably I don't know. I've been interested in birds for maybe the last 5 or 6 years or something, but not that long really. And you know, 10 years ago, say, like I would never notice them. It's just not, it wasn't in my consciousness. But now, it's like anywhere you are, there's going to be some sort of bird situation. So,
Hmm.
you can never, it's never boring, I guess.
No, it's
But,
always changing depending
mm,
where you go to.
sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think for me also, it took maybe some years back for me to have a sudden appreciation for nature and appreciate being outdoors more and
Hmm.
stopping it and just observing,
Yeah.
animals and my plants that I come across on a daily basis
Right. Well,
and
you
all of
guys
that.
have great birds on Long Island there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're lucky. I remember when you and Meredith were over, we had
Hmm.
that hawk fly overhead, which you
Yeah.
noticed right away, which was so cool.
Well, and we went last time when we left. We tried to go find the bald eagles that y'all were
Oh
talking
yeah,
about too.
that's
We
right.
didn't see them, but we kind of hung around wherever that was down the street. But
Yeah, we
yeah,
haven't seen them either, which is horrible because they've been around for a couple of years now, but we just haven't had the time to
yeah,
just sit for a couple hours over there. But our
right.
neighbors
Well,
keep
and I
taking
think that
photos.
neighborhood, they didn't. I don't know. It seemed like some of the residents there didn't love all these people coming and sitting
Yeah,
on the side of the road. I guess, but
there isn't a lot of
yeah,
rules, I think, established now as far as where you can park and where you can be, and they've
right.
learned to make it work, but it still can be challenging and I'm sure frustrating for those who live there. But how
Yeah,
lucky are they to be able to wake up and go in their backyard and potentially see those eagles?
I know, right? Yeah, it's yeah. I think they'll be all right.
I think so too. There's a lot more
But
serious things to worry about.
yeah, yeah. But I don't know. Um, but yeah, so I mean, we could the Juncos there. That was
Yeah.
winter, and so one thing I like about the Juncos in winter is like, so these are dark-eyed Juncos. That's what we have here, but there's all sorts of variations on them, like across the country and the world or whatever. But these, so like we get snow here in Asheville, and they're dark, so like they're very conspicuous when there's like a junco out in the snow. And so that was kind of, they come in the winter, and really they leave. I think they're probably gone by now. And so it's just a few months out of the year. And then but yeah, they're just it's that little dark spot out in the snow. And so they're kind of, I don't know, they're just conspicuous for that reason. And we get excited about it. But yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a little burst of life in an otherwise potentially stark landscape.
Right, right. And I mean, the color is kind of a similar deal with the summer, whereas I'm not, I don't know, like, and usually I'm maybe a little over analytical or think too much about color and whatnot. And so this one I really was just trying to like not think about even just like the name of the color or whatever. Like, let's go by feel and try to represent whatever about winter that was happening there. But
And I think you definitely achieve that bit of austerity and cool temperature with your choice of blues, and
Right.
that there's always a subtle touch of warmth, I think, in the purples that is
Hmm.
present, but it's just almost like a balancing tool, so you're not overwhelmed by that coolness, and
Yeah.
it just enhances a sense of depth that you so beautifully, portray in
Thanks.
multiple means. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
between the atmosphere and the layers, as
Right.
well as working with the foreground, midground, and background,
Yeah.
it's always a really exciting and beautiful component of your work.
Uh, Thanks. Yeah.
You're welcome. And so we'll move to autumn.
Okay. Yeah. So the kestrels. So I mean, as far as like the exciting thing in the fall, as far as birds go and
Oh, let
migration,
me
like
see. Brian, you might
rapidly.
have froze. Let's see.
Oh.
Yep, you're back. Wait, no, you're not. Okay, I think we're good.
Okay.
Okay.
Um. Okay. But yeah, we get you know, hawks and falcons migrate down the. So we're in the Appalachian Mountains, and you know, so every fall we get all these birds that just you know, fly down the ridge, and that's kind of the exciting bird related thing in the fall here. So the kestrels are you know, a smaller falcon, maybe the smallest falcon we have here. Um, but anyway, there's been a few efforts to kind of encourage them um, to, you know, they've put up some nesting boxes nearby, and um, yeah, so I don't know, but this pair here is the reference from that was from this rescue center in Charlotte. I wish we had kestrels in the backyard, but they don't stop by, so
Well,
not
it's
yet
good that
anyway.
you can visit them then.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, for
And
sure.
so I'm assuming this is a male and female?
Yeah, all the birds are male and female pairs.
Nice.
It's
Nice.
it's romantic, I guess. But well, because aren't the Boucher paintings um,
Yes,
aren't they all kind of this sort of courting uh,
absolutely.
motif? And so yeah, the that'd be the male on the left and the female on the right there. And yeah,
It's always funny how in the bird kingdom, males are often a bit more um, visual
ostentatious.
with their feathers
Yeah,
and
yeah,
as
there. It's
as
funny.
opposed to a lot of what I guess society dictates now, where the females tend to be a bit more inclined with their
Right.
appearance and yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I know. It's yeah, it's funny. They I guess I have to attract them somehow.
Yeah,
But yeah, and
but I do particularly like this one because of that contrast between gender. It's not as noticeable
right.
for me, at least. I don't know too much about birds, but
Yeah,
for the others, for all we know, they could both be male or they could both be female, unless
right,
we were a bit
right.
more knowledgeable. But there's that distinction here, and
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you know, there's the juncos are pretty similar. I guess they're harder to tell apart, and the warblers in the spring. It was actually that's the same. The reference I used for that, that's the same bird. I just changed the colors to make the one on the right female and more
ah,
drab. But
that's what it is. It's the colors then for these two that
yeah,
distinguish by gender.
yeah. So like in the spring, you know, the warblers come through in the spring here, and that's, you know, something we look forward to. But yeah, so the pine warbler, the male on the left there is the brighter yellow, and on the right it's the female tends to be more drab, and um, yeah,
It's nature.
yeah,
And I really appreciate that you attributed back to the original inspiration for the exhibition.
yeah,
With
yeah,
themes, we get loose interpretations, sometimes very far removed ones, as well as ones that I think truly call
right,
and dictate to what it was that identifying element for that theme.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I like the things y'all do there. It's kind of
Thank you. I feel like they teach me a lot, and I think that you guys also can learn a bit because there's some element of research involved.
right. Well,
And
why
then
did you choose the Frick or the Boucher pieces? Do you have some sort of relationship with them personally, or
no one's asked me a question before on
uh,
here. Thank you.
is that okay?
Um, it, I just the Frick Collection has been one of my favorite museums to visit in New York City.
Hmm.
It's very manageable, but also decadent and beautiful because you
Right.
have the private art collection of an individual
Sure.
in the home that it was set in. So not only do you have these
Oh, that's
paintings, but you have these gorgeous pieces of furniture, incredible molding, and interior decor.
uh,
So I
where
always,
in New York is it?
it's
It's
right
in.
like next to the Met. It's like a block or two
Oh,
away. It's
okay.
super close,
I
but
didn't.
the Met's always a go-to, and I've always loved Boucher's work, and these particular pieces had stood out to me, and they were
Yeah.
amongst the first that I had ever seen by him. And I like the idea of artists working in series. I think that you
Right.
get a really beautiful
Yeah.
combination of elements and a wonderful sense of exploration with what comes out.
Sure.
And so this is a theme that I felt like it was broad enough where people didn't feel like they were tied down or restricted, but
Yeah.
it also had that historical component and that
Right.
penchant for beauty in the
Right.
natural world that I love when you guys explore.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so is it a house there? The
So,
or
I
is
mean,
it?
I guess it's like a mansion, I would
Yeah.
I would call it, but it's been a while since I've kept up with the
Right.
background on it, so I might be representing it
Uh,
or how they'd
well,
like to represent it. But it was a family collection, and then I
okay.
guess it became a museum or an institution some time back. But
Okay. Kind
it's
of like
great
the
because
what is it? The Barns? Is that the one in
yeah,
Philadelphia
yeah,
with all the
yep, yep, but very
whatever?
different histories.
Yeah. Yeah.
That collection has quite the tumultuous
Right.
history still to this day.
Yeah, I saw
Um,
that movie or one there documentary or something years
yeah,
ago.
me too.
But it's kind of awesome that like that guy was, you know, of modest means, I guess, and was able to put together this collection. That's I don't know.
Absolutely.
That's, yeah,
And
it's
even
awesome.
after, having a substantial collection of art, still wanting it to be used for educational purposes and
Sure.
not, doing everything that he could even after his passing to keep that collection intact and for the
Right.
reasons he, built it for.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I
he
mean,
sure
yeah,
pissed a lot of people off.
right. Well, it's crazy how I don't. I mean, it's priceless for one, and then just like the logistics of how do you manage however many millions of dollars worth of anything, But
Yeah.
but yeah, it's interesting for sure.
I mean, and now more than ever, I think people are collecting art, and it's an incredible thing. But you wonder now all the questions and all the logistics that will arise, for future generations,
Yeah,
with all these like mini and very large scale collections too.
yeah, it's yeah, who knows?
It will be interesting though to see.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean it's I don't know, like as a painter, I do what I can to like make work that is, you know, archival and that should last plenty long. But it is weird to think about, one of my pieces actually, you know, I don't know. It's strange to think
Like
about.
how they can outlive you
Yeah,
and
yeah, and I don't know.
it is strange. I mean, it's so special at the same time that someone decided this is what I want to wake up to and go to bed to every
Absolutely,
day, and
yeah, it's
it's
flattering.
absolutely, and it's I always say it makes every time somebody wants to bring home artwork so special. It
Right.
never gets old. It never feels done
Yeah,
with. It's every time, and
yeah,
when you can make those relationships too with collectors who are always kind of intrigued and amazed each step you take with each
right,
painting, I
right.
think is, the next level of special.
Yeah.
And
Well, and like with the backgrounds and stuff, like, I mean, I have art in my house and kind of, I think about my relationship to the work that, we've picked and decided to hang in our house and how, it evolves over time. It's not always like we'll hang a piece and, for years, like it, your relationship to it does kind of evolve and change. And
yeah,
it's I don't know, it's a great thing about having a painting. Like it's stagnant and it's silent, but it's always there, like on that wall that you pass walking out the door every day or whatever. And but so like with these layers and all the detail in the background, like it's an attempt to you know somebody can have a painting for years and still come across something that they may have not seen before, or it might
Hmm.
strike them differently depending on whatever's going on in their life at the time. And
Absolutely.
but yeah,
They
so that
keep
was,
giving.
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying they just keep giving in that sense.
Mm.
And just piggybacking off what you said, I mean, they evolve with you. So if it's a
Right.
matter of you noticing something for the first time that you hadn't seen, or now kind of developing a different sense of mood or intrigue or
Yeah.
exploration, because as you get older, things that may not have been noticeable in the past suddenly
Right.
stand out. And
Right.
so it's like having, a piece of you as the artist
Yeah.
in someone's home.
Well, and I mean, I look back at my own work, from years back, and things will strike me differently, or things will have meanings now that I didn't intend at the time. And yeah, I mean, it's a collaborative thing, I guess, between the artist and the viewer. And
Hmm.
um, but the chicken painting up there on the wall, I was
Yeah.
just thinking of that recently. During this whole debacle that we have going on, but the two like deck chairs or lawn chairs there. I didn't really think about it when I painted it, but it's totally like, arranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, that saying. And because they are very positioned. And, you know, I don't know. I don't know why that piece popped in my mind the other day, but, just kind of, I don't know. It's interesting, like worrying about these small details when, you know, the world might be going down and or something. But yeah.
But I mean, these are details that, you know, they work with the current times and they work with the past as well. And
Mm,
it gives that timeless quality to the work where perhaps it's almost like foresight into the future, which many people might say your work suggests. It's often for me kind of in between. I mean, there's so many
right.
different times and places and moods and feelings that your work evokes. But I
Right.
think that's what makes it, exceptionally strong and so much so loved by so many people because it's not so specific. It's specific to you at that moment
Yeah.
that you're experiencing that piece. And so whether, animators was some kind of like presage to the future or
Right.
just maybe even from just watching the film Titanic or something else,
Yeah.
and it just kind of like laid that groundwork subconsciously. I
Yeah.
think it evokes such conversation and thought.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it gets back to that, like, sort of, it is that collaborative thing between, you know, whatever I'm thinking about when I'm painting something. It's not the most, I don't know, like that's just what I have in my mind to keep me engaged in my work and whatever. But like, I don't expect that to transfer um, necessarily. And I don't know. Yeah, it's like the sort of post-apocalyptic thing. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's obviously there aesthetically, but I don't know. Like, I don't think about post-apocalyptic stuff too much. I don't know. Like, it's more of an aesthetic thing, I guess. Um, I don't know. There's probably a lot that we could talk about there, but
I think so. But
yeah,
again, it's that openness, I think, that makes the work special because it reaches so many different people at different points in their lives.
sure,
And it also, again, grows with them. So something
right,
that they may not have noticed suddenly stands out. And that could be because you just hit it so beautifully with all the layers you put in, or
yeah,
simply because something happened and this now evokes that moment and that
right.
experience. And
Well, and
so,
I mean, it's awesome as a painter to have somebody, bring meaning to something. Like it's to have somebody's attention even for a second these days.
yeah.
Even on so like Instagram or whatever, you're just swiping through all these images that people have worked on for hours and weeks and months or whatever, and it's so for someone to actually think about something you made and kind of assign some sort of meaning to it, whatever it is it's the best compliment I can get. And so I definitely welcome or appreciate it. But yeah.
Absolutely. And whether they're pulling interpretation from some place that you pulled in creating these works, or they're offering something new, it's an equally gratifying experience to hear that from them. I
Right.
mean, to have that connection and that bond with somebody you've never met before through
Yeah.
this visual,
Yeah.
message that you're conveying through your paintbrush, but also having them teach you new things, I think
Right.
is extraordinary and one of the very special things that art allows for us to experience.
Well, and this one too, in particular, is it's just I don't know. This one's funny because it is this. We are all having this universal experience of
Yeah.
coronavirus or whatever, and like that's rare. That for one, it's rare that just everybody in the world is basically consumed by this one thing, and you know I don't know. Like I when I made this piece was a year and a half ago or whatever. Like there was no COVID-19 or any of that, but so much of this does kind of, I don't know. It's
It,
interesting.
yeah,
But,
it echoed the future in ways that we never expected it to.
right,
But I
right.
mean, what I like about her is that there's a little bit of humor here,
Yeah.
And yesterday when I was speaking with Calvin Laituri, who's an artist
Hmm.
who actually also works with a lot of organic elements juxtaposed with man-made and industrial
Right.
architecture, he had brought out the fact that now animals are kind of coming back into villages and into
Yeah.
towns that they haven't
Yeah.
come by in a very long time because of all the people. And
Yeah.
so it's just kind of that reclamation of nature, I think. But
Yeah.
it's also quite funny because she has a bit of a comic look to her. It's just inevitable, I think, in her being a chicken.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
I liked how her, yeah, just like the one foot up a little bit. And, I don't know.
yeah,
I mean, it was like this morning I did the grocery shopping for the week, and it's like no chicken this week because
yeah,
it's just weird. But we do have eggs this week, so
yeah.
you know,
We have the same thing by us.
yeah,
Whatever the flavor of the week is for
yeah,
people, I guess.
exactly. But
Um,
mm,
Yeah, no. So a couple of questions have popped up as we've
mm,
been speaking.
okay,
We have a lot of really wonderful and supportive comments too. So thank you
uh,
everyone for that. First question is, your paintings are really so beautiful and subtle. Your work has a lot of beautiful misty atmosphere. Does it symbolize anything about your style?
like the misty stuff. I mean, it's like where we are in. So we're in Asheville, and it's the Smoky Mountains, and like we have most mornings, especially in the spring, we'll have this kind of really thick ground fog, and it just looks like that. Like you go out in the mornings, and all the mountains are kind of silhouetted, and then there's this heavy ground fog, and I mean, I just aesthetically, I love that, and so that's kind of where that the whole mist thing started, was more just where I lived, and through my own experience of I've lived in several places that had this sort of thick ground fog, and I just always really liked it. But yeah, so
I think thematically it also adds a sense of mystery.
hmm
And it also allows for these very beautiful settings to have a bit of suspense and drama,
sure.
which I think furthers the interpretation and the storyline for many viewers.
Yeah, and I mean, and it kind of just functionally, like it brings the picture together. It kind of
Yes.
marries foreground and background, and um, yeah, yeah, just kind of like I don't know that I could make a painting that didn't have fog in it, or if I did, it would be you know, difficult. But
Yeah. I mean, maybe one day, but I
yeah,
think for now, both technically and thematically, your work is, I think, now expected and known for this element.
yeah,
And
well,
it just works beautifully. I mean, it's also about the airiness and the light and the space, as you mentioned, with
right,
the foreground, background, and how
right,
that dictates.
yeah,
And I think it enhances, when you have, like, for example, in this piece, as well as summer, you have these layers of mountains and architecture
yeah,
that kind of fade off into the distance. So more space is implied. And
yeah,
also you start to kind of lose the visual identification of what it is you're looking at. And then
right,
that allows the imagination to just unravel
yeah,
and build and
yeah,
contribute as that second integral part of the artwork as the viewer looks in.
yeah, yeah,
So,
for sure. And like occasionally it'll be. almost this like narrative, or you can use those layers going into the background to kind of tell a story, like a more specific story in some pieces. And
Yeah.
I don't know, like you guys have that one, the Great Leap Forward.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's there somewhere,
She's
but
not here with us.
yeah,
I'm
but
sorry. I wanted to bring the big ones with me, but I didn't know where we'd really put
no,
them.
it's totally fine. But that one, it does have this kind of more developed narrative or backstory, and just kind of based on, I don't know, like this style of painting allows me to, if there is a more I don't know, dense or complicated story I'm trying to tell, I can, because you can put all sorts of stuff hidden in the background that you know kind of develop that narrative.
Absolutely. And with that piece, because it's one of the larger ones you've done, I
Mm.
imagine then the space allows you to fit even more in.
Yeah,
So you can,
yeah,
tell that story a bit more specifically, as you've said. And
yeah,
that particular piece has a really great history to it because it's about the Industrial Revolution in China.
yeah. Or the yeah, sort of. I guess that was I mean, it was Mao's I guess initiative to kind of bring China up to par with the rest of the world in a way, but it was kind of a disaster too, I guess. With I don't know. There's a lot going on there with tree sparrows, and then
The cherry blossoms.
yeah, and but basically it kind of circles around the what was it? But basically the famine in China. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of this horrific ordeal, but but yeah. So
Well, that leads everyone to know also how influential history is to your works, as well
mm-hmm,
as your Chinese heritage with like
mm-hmm,
Chinese line painting, for example, and how that visually
yeah,
is interpreted through your own style, but also bringing in the history of your family as well
yeah.
as just the history of humankind in general. And
Right, right. Yes. My mom's from Hong Kong, and she immigrated to the States for college, and my dad's from North Carolina, so he's this kind of typical, country boy type, and then mom's from Hong Kong, and yeah. So I don't know, and there's a lot of this sort of duality type thing going on in a lot of the paintings, the sort of East and West, and I'll go through a period where I'm a little obsessed with like the southwestern painters, or kind of cowboy paintings and horses and that sort of stuff. So that's the like western side, and then the eastern side comes out in some of the the landscapes, and uh, all sorts of stuff, cherry blossoms and whatnot.
I mean, we're a country of so many different backgrounds and cultures intermingling that it's now part of who we all are, and it's what makes each other more interesting too. And
Mm-hmm.
so to be able to know that about you and then look at your work with a different perspective as a result also, where you can suddenly pinpoint certain elements and also understand where they came from your
Right.
personal history, I think is really fascinating and something that I always like to do. And
Yeah. Yeah. It's thank you. I appreciate that.
yeah, of course. And I always tell people when they come in the gallery that they should look at the work before they start asking questions, because the questions will give away what they're supposed to see, what they're
Yeah.
quote unquote supposed to see, I should
Right.
say. And so it's always so nice when they look at the work, come to their own conclusions, and then we can have a
Sure.
conversation after, because then I can kind of fill in the gaps that they haven't already completed themselves. And
Yeah.
so, here they are getting to know you, someone who they may
Right.
not meet, but now they're acquainted with through your work. But they're also
Yeah.
now sharing things about themselves and perhaps gaining new perspective too.
Yeah. That's I mean, that's interesting. That's got to be, I don't know, just from your point of view, like having folks come in and ask questions about paintings. Yeah, it's like I don't know. I couldn't answer probably a lot of questions about my own work. So
It's
uh,
all subjective, and your answers will
yeah,
change over time too. And
absolutely.
sometimes there are no answers as well, and that's okay because that's an answer in and of itself.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, you get to like your I don't know, as far as like influences go and stuff, like, you know, they have to evolve. And
Hmm.
um, I don't know, like the work does, I don't know, when you look back at it anyway, like it does, it needs to evolve. Like if it's, I don't know, like if it's not, if it's just stagnant or whatever, I feel like that's maybe a missed opportunity or something. But
I think so too. And I think that, most work has to evolve, whether the artist wants it to or not, because they're always evolving and
right,
experiencing new things. But there are some works that, or artist work that I come across that I feel like I haven't seen much growth or depth from. And I think
sure.
that can come from a place of fear, and
Hmm.
intimidation of the risk that
Yeah,
evolving and doing something new poses.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
Well, and I
that's
could probably be guilty of that too, in a way.
we
But,
all are in a
but
sense, for sure.
yeah,
With me with the gallery too.
right. But but I mean that's, you know, like I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago. So the paintings I make, um, you know, now versus 5 years ago should be completely different too.
Absolutely. And they represent that change of person in you. And
Right.
and
Right.
as, someone who's been following your work for such a long time, and I'm one of many, it's really wonderful. And I think it's a special opportunity for me to watch that evolution unfold through your work and
Uh,
watch you grow. And it's a very unique thing that doesn't really
yeah.
happen, outside of, your immediate family and friends,
Right.
but even more
It,
so.
yeah, it's funny, you know. I mean, just from my perspective, it's funny to like, you know, look back at older work and I don't know, like you just want to tell that guy to calm down a little bit. But
If only you knew what I knew now.
yeah, exactly. Or just, you know, even if you're right, you'd still kind of have some nuance or something. But
But you needed to go there in order to get here. So
right,
it's
right,
a part of the process.
yeah.
And,
Well, and we're all pretty excitable when we're, you know, in our 20s or whatever. And
yeah,
yeah.
we are. Absolutely. So actually speaking about older work,
Mhm.
we have a question that's a bit related to that because in more recent bodies, you haven't really put any human figures in. There might be a
Right.
suggestion. It could be maybe a figure or a statue,
Yeah.
but never in the foreground, as you see with the birds, for instance, a distinctive human being.
Yeah.
So Gina added in her question, let me see, do you prefer painting animals over people and why?
I mean, these days, yeah. I don't know. Like, I always think about returning to, you know, painting people or figures, but I don't know. It's like there's so much associated with a person. Like, if you put a figure in a piece, you know, we're talking about how you want the work to be interpreted by the viewer, kind of independently of whatever I'm bringing to it, or at least it's a collaboration. So, you know, you have a figure in a piece, and that, I don't know, like just it feels like it dictates too much, just from where I'm coming from right now. You know, it's, I don't know, the last pieces that had figures in it, that I made, and this is, you know, some years ago now, but I don't know, it just felt like they read as, you know, more of this rigid thing, like this is a painting of this person. And whereas like with something like an animal, like it's a little bit more I don't know, open-ended or allegorical or something. Like it feels like you can bring or you can project more onto an animal in a way, than than sometimes with a figure. But and yeah, and I mean it's more just like, I guess that might be rooted in sort of identity maybe, or like if there's a like a female, like a white woman in a painting, then it's almost, I don't know, like for like a person of color who's male, maybe, you know, it's harder to relate to in a way, or something. I don't know. There's just something there that is being expressed that wouldn't, that's not my intention. So, you
It
know,
makes a lot of sense.
um, but that being said, like that's just for you know, where my head's been recently. Like that, I'm sure that'll change. And I don't know. There's a few. there are a few paintings in my head that do involve people, and specific people that would speak to certain things. And um but so that's for another time. But for now, like, I don't know, it's like, I use painting as a way to basically interact with the world around me, and just where I am, my situation, where I live geographically, and just the point in my life. Like, I'm trying to go out and watch birds, or, like, follow my interest, which happen to be, these animals. And then from there, I, gather reference and make paintings. And, that's what it is now. But, it won't stay like that forever.
I think as of now, and with what you've been doing for the past number of years with Sans human presence, I think that it allows the human that's looking at the work to be more present in the work themselves. Because,
Right.
as you mentioned, that specificity of that person that you could have painted in is going to alter the interpretation, and it's going to narrow it down a little bit more. And for some, that's the intention, and that's great. But in this case, I think you already have human elements because you have the
Sure.
architecture, you have palette, you have mood. And these are things that can evoke the same thing that human figure can,
Yeah.
as well.
Well, and
So
even having the male and female versions of the birds at referencing male and female humans in the
yeah.
Boucher paintings. Here's the cat. He's coming to say hey.
Ah.
This is Goldman. But
Oh.
yeah, if I sit at this desk too long, he'll come and make himself comfortable. But,
Well,
yeah.
I never complain when they do that. It's the honor they bestow upon us to sit on our laps.
Yeah. We've had a cat stuck in our tree outside the house for the last day and a half. It's been
no.
stressful. Yeah, how do you get a cat out of a tree? I don't know.
I feel like I've seen, like, in TV shows they call the fireman, but I don't think that's a real thing.
Yeah. And I mean, it's the neighbor's cat, I think, but I saw a wildlife services truck drive by, so I think they're doing something about it, but I don't know. I think it's been stressing out my cat.
Oh.
But
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Watching and hearing and probably just sensing the anxiety.
I know.
Oh.
Yeah, it's too bad. I thought it was a bear at first, and I was
Oh
excited
no.
to see a bear, but then was kind of heartbroken that this little black cat. But
Yeah, so stuck. Well,
yeah,
hopefully he or she can come down on its own if assistance isn't met. But
yeah. I don't know.
yeah,
We'll see.
it's
If it
sad.
goes another night, we may have to, I don't know, get some ladders out or something.
Yeah. Or as it was mentioned, maybe putting out some food. Maybe the
Yeah.
smell will like lure him or her down, and
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Oh.
I don't know. So we'll see. That's what passes for excitement around here.
I know. I was gonna say it's these little moments, something different, a change of scene or weather that we're like, oh, look at that.
Yeah, exactly.
I
But,
know. Joseph and I were out for a walk 2 days ago, and we got caught in like the like remnants of this weird hail rainstorm that we had earlier in the day. It came back for like 10 minutes, and I was telling him this is the biggest adventure we've had
yeah.
in over a month.
Yeah.
This is running as the hail came down on us.
Yeah, that's crazy. How is it there? People, I mean, are y'all doing okay?
I mean, we're good.
Quarantine.
Thankfully we're so close to the gallery, we can go back and forth and
Yeah.
bring books home, do these stories, and we've been still doing everything online with the current exhibitions, which is
Right.
I think been received almost nearly as well as it would if we had the works on exhibit in person. We're just missing that human element and that opportunity for people to fall in love even more when they experience these pieces. But I mean, we
It's
can't
a
complain.
tough situation, I mean, like, I don't know. Like, I've been talking to a lot of my artist friends about, I think people just understand it is what it is right now, but it is tough having, the not having that in-person interaction with whatever work. But, I don't know. I think folks kind of understand this is, a necessary thing. But, yeah,
And
I
I think it's really nice to do things like this with you because, I mean, this is what, might have been spoken about at an opening reception or with me at the gallery with those coming in. And so not only can they also engage through their comments, but they can watch these now or later
Right.
and still feel like they had a part of that experience with you and your work. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's not just about the experience of them in person, but of, you know, the conversations and the friendships and relationships that are forged. Yes, I hear the cat purring too.
Yeah,
He's very
he's
happy.
loud. Is it messing it up? Um,
No, it's fine. It's cute.
yeah, he's pretty happy. I don't know.
That's awesome.
He got
But
kicked out of the bed in the middle of the night last night, so
oh no.
he's making it up now.
Oh yeah, making up for lost time.
Yeah, I don't know. He's a good boy though.
They're a good company, I think, for a lot of us having, you know, the opportunity to spend more time with kids or pets.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it helps. I mean, I'm sure it gets stressful too in many cases, but it helps to sure to have that animal
yeah.
companionship always there. And
Well, it's a good like we have a dog too, and that's the hardest thing now. We our national forest around here was basically closed, and it is one of those things that's necessary. But we have a dog, and like our routine was me and Mabel, my dog, we'd go hike, once or twice a week, especially this time of year, um, and I mean that's a very integral part of my work process too. Is going out and walking in the woods and kind of clearing my head, and then
yeah,
also getting reference for work and looking at tree branches and stuff. But or you know, photographing wildlife too. But that's been a tricky thing. Without that, like me and Meredith and the dog will just go drive around now, but not really get out. And,
are there any spaces that you can walk around that are open and without too many people?
I mean, I'm sure there are. We're just spoiled, basically.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of a embarrassment of riches with some of the I don't know. It's a great place to live. We have the Great Smoky Mountain National Park, maybe I don't know, 15 miles down the road here, and and then Pisgah National Forest and a few others. And I mean, it's a great place to live. But now it's one of those things where I, I think there's a lot of uncertainty. Like I don't know which trails are open, or I'm not trying to like be somewhere I'm not supposed to be and get
Yeah,
fined, whatever. And I don't know, and just trying to trying to be a good sport, but
of course.
you know, it's tricky. We're lucky to have a decent sized yard where we can. I don't know. Our garden's going to be excellent this year.
I was gonna say
Yeah,
I've been waiting for it to get just a bit warmer here so we can start also.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You guys have a great yard too.
Yeah, we love our yard and we feel lucky that, you know, we have a bit of property to look out on
Hmm.
and it brings that wildlife in too.
Yeah. Are the beaches closed there?
I think so, but they're starting to reopen certain places. Like the golf
Uh,
courses have been reopened.
yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of crazy. It's like all of a sudden we hit our goal. So now we can just
Right.
open places back up and
Right.
slowly ease and it's gonna take more time than
Oh
that.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, there's
It's
no stopping a dedicated human. So
I know, right? Yeah, yeah, some crazy times right now for sure.
it is. But
But yeah, what you
we're
gonna do?
certainly learning a lot about ourselves and about
Yeah.
others.
Well, it's
So
funny too though because like, I mean, really nothing about outside of not being able to go like hike wherever I want. My days are the same. I
yeah,
work at the house, and I don't know. It's interesting. Like, nothing should necessarily have to change in my day to day, but it has. For whatever reason. I mean, I guess like I can't listen to. I usually listen to a lot of podcasts and follow politics really closely, and kind of have this steady diet of you know just stuff that I listen to while I'm working, and I can't anymore. It's too.
it becomes overwhelming.
Oh yeah, it's
I
too
know.
much, and I mean it's not good for like it. Yeah, it can't be good to be that upset and stressed out all the time. So it's like I'll
Yeah.
give myself 30 minutes to just,
Yeah.
this is what's happening. But now, catching up on some audiobooks or whatever. But I don't know. But yeah, other than that, like it's just, kind of business as usual in a way.
Yeah.
But which is weird.
I know a lot of artists have that where their routines haven't changed significantly because they
Yeah.
do work from home mostly. But
Right.
it's that inundation of information that's just always being, thrown our way because of
Yeah.
social media and because it's
Yeah.
great to be in social media, but we also have to from a professional perspective.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, I always say like 10 years ago, you would just turn on the news when it was on if you wanted to see it. And
Yeah.
now when you log on to social media to see art or,
Right.
find animal videos or check in on your family, now
Yeah.
you have to know about all the terrible things going on in this world. And you have skewed pieces and you have
Yeah.
pieces that are designed for clickbait. And
Yeah.
it's a
Well, yeah.
nightmare.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like our, I don't know. People's opinions shouldn't be that important, but they just take up so much space. I don't
Well,
know.
in this world of social media, forget it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's,
Everyone's opinion's important in their
right.
minds, and they
Right.
have a computer to hide behind,
Yeah.
so they're all the braver.
Yeah. It's a thing for sure.
It
But,
is. All right, we have a technical question that had popped up when we were speaking about the fog and atmosphere that you put
okay.
into your work. She wants to know how hard it is to paint the ground fog, and do you have to sketch it first?
Oh, sketch the, no, no to both, I guess. It's like, I mean, I don't know. Hard or easy is, I'm not sure that I can speak to that, but it's just I don't know. At this point, it's almost second nature. But basically, I do like I'll paint a layer and let it dry. So I'm doing wet over dry. So basically, like behind the chairs there, that little building or whatever. We'll take that for an example. Like I'll paint that, as a basically as a silhouette, and then let it dry overnight, and then come back the next day and you know can then down some white, or if you lay down like a layer of linseed oil over a dry layer, then you can blend in whatever color you want your fog to be pretty seamlessly. And but yeah, so basically it's like the hardest thing about it is almost just the logistics of having to paint wet on dry. So you just have like I have to have 30 paintings going at all times, basically, because you can do one layer, and then it's depending on if you're using like alkyds or some sort of a like fast drying medium sort of thing. But basically, like you can do so much, and then you got to leave it alone. And I don't know, and that suits me because I tend to obsess over things, and like that's one of these sort of guardrails. Like at a certain point, I have to just stop because it needs to dry. And I don't know.
And so then the fog is one focus on with each piece, or is there
I,
something else that comes after the fog?
I lost you there for 1 second.
Oh,
Can you say
sorry,
that again?
my battery's dying, so it kind of
Uh,
went and paused on me. So with the fog, it's almost like an afterthought. It's something that you add after you build the
well, it's
architecture.
not an afterthought. It's just the plan is there to do it. I just have to wait on whatever the previous layer is to dry. Um, and
Is it
that's
planned
just
though?
how I'm sorry.
Do you plan where you're going to place it in the composition, or once you've kind of
Yeah.
built out the architecture, let's say in this example, then all of a sudden it almost tells you where the fog's going to go? Or do you find that it's something that you kind of have a formula for? How do you go about its
Yeah.
placement?
Well, I mean, I think like ultimately it is a feel, almost like the color palette. But like with this one, I definitely plan to have the negative space behind the chicken. And then just knowing from, how I paint, like I'll know there's going to be layers of fog between each layer of building and or whatever. And but yeah, so as far as like I know it's going to be there, and the larger forms will be definitely, I don't know, in my mind they'll be kind of placed, but other than that, it's not super specific. So like I'm not going in and sketching in like every little whatever tendril of fog. But does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes great sense.
Okay.
Thank you for explaining that a bit more. So we're hitting the hour mark in a couple seconds. So we're gonna just come back and finish off any questions that might come about.
Okay.
So if you guys and Brian also don't mind just joining me back, I'm gonna close
Sure.
off this session and open up one more, and
Okay.
we will wrap it up. So everyone who's watching, please join us and also have any final questions ready.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks.
be back in a second. Thank you,
Okay.
guys. Okay, hey again.
All right. Hey.
Hey everyone, thank you for coming back. And for those of you just joining us, we have Brian Mashburn here, along with some paintings that he's completed for our four-season show, as well as the one remaining piece from his solo last year. And so we're at the point where we're going to start to wrap up our conversation. So again, if you guys have pressing questions, now is the time. And Brian, is there anything that you wanted to mention further about these works or about your work in general before we close off? No pressure.
Not
I just don't want to
particularly.
miss anything if you
Yeah.
had anything else.
No, I mean, I don't know. Like, yeah, I mean, now's one of those times when I feel fortunate to be able to do what I do. It's kind of the definition of non-essential work, but I still get to do it and, work in the same place that I've always worked. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel fortunate now. I really appreciate people, taking the time to listen. But
Well,
yeah.
I would contrast the fact that I do think that what you do is essential.
Well,
And I think
thank
many
you.
people would agree with me. And
Right.
thankfully, it's something you can do from the safety of your own home.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's a beautiful thing for sure. But, your work and again, many others that, we have the fortunate, opportunity to display and share, it always evokes a sense of
Yeah.
hope and a transcendence from our current reality to
Sure.
someplace new. And I think that we need that. I mean, there's only so much Netflix we can watch, and
Right.
there's only so much depth to a lot of the programming that we take in.
Yeah.
And so to have, paintings, drawings, and sculptures and photography and all these mediums, so many layers and so many, years of personal experience and education and emotion,
Sure.
it
Yeah.
really does, I think, transport us. And I think
Yeah.
it's
Well,
it's
yeah, I
very
appreciate that
essential.
for sure. But I don't know. It's been great though. Like there's, a lot of folks have reached out in the past couple weeks or whatever, and there's been awesome support for not just me, but the kind of creative community in general. And
Definitely.
yeah, it's great though, and like you guys are going above and beyond and trying to keep
Thank
this whole
you.
thing moving, and it's yeah, it's not easy for sure. So
No,
I
but
appreciate you.
thank you,
But
as do I with you and our artists too, who are just continually moving and pushing themselves in a time where it's harder than ever to do so. And
yeah,